I can think of moments where I was in like a New York boardroom and this great presentation. They'll be like, "Oh, this is so great. We want to hire you. Hey, what part of the city are you from?" And I'd be like, "Oh, whoa. I'm not from the city here. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska."
From Grindstone Media, this is Nebraska Made, a narrative journey through the lives of Nebraska's most inspiring business leaders. We unpack the intimate details of how our guests navigated obstacles and built their companies in pursuit of the good life. Today we hear from possibly the most creative person in Nebraska, Clint Runge, the founder of the former Ad Age Agency of the Year, Archrival. Our guest today, Clint Runge, is so outside the box that he legally added an exclamation mark to his first name. That's right, it's Clint Runge. Clint understands marketing and youth culture maybe more than anyone else in Nebraska, and he's learned this through years and years of trial and error.
I'm originally from South Dakota, small town just outside of Sioux Falls. If you know the area, it was a great, small town, rural life type of living.
When was your first business that you ever started?
I think the first one I would consider would be sixth grade news. My friend, my best friend at the time in sixth grade, we realized there was so much drama happening in our class that we should create our own newspaper about it. And so we created 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. We would write down all the news of the week and all the rumors that's going on in sixth grade. And then we would do that front to back, and then we would sell that for 10 cents. To all our friends. And what was crazy is we didn't copy them. Like, we hand wrote each single one of them. So for 10 cents a page, which is insane to think about. But that would be the first business we did.
At this point, were people labeling you an entrepreneur already?
I've never even heard the term entrepreneur until years later out of college, to be honest with you. But if I always had my hand in the mix of trying to come up with something that people would buy, yeah, or pay me money for, yeah. So that's always been part of the show.
So it's the early 90s, and Clint has no idea that he's going to become an entrepreneur one day. He didn't grow up doing any of the startup pitch competitions or coding boot camps that a lot of young people do today. Like many other successful business leaders in the state, he found himself moving to Nebraska to attend the university.
So I went to the University of Nebraska, went through architecture school there, realized somewhere along the way that architecture, I loved problem solving, but the industry of architecture has a real hierarchy to it. And being young and a doer, right? I wanted to go do things and make things. I realized that I didn't want to wait 20, 25 years to go make something significant in architecture. I wanted to do something now. Because of that hierarchy, I thought, well, maybe there's something else I could do. And so I looked at advertising. Advertising, it seems like maybe young ideas happen faster. So got a degree in advertising as well. So graduated with both of those degrees. I really tried to figure out what I was going to do. I looked around at the world of creative, and nothing really seemed to fit me, if I'm being honest. And so my friend and my business partner, Charlie, we, somewhere along the way there in architecture school, we decided, let's just do our own thing then. And so I was creating ads and doing design projects for nothing, because no one pays a broke college student who doesn't know anything. The local burrito shop, I would do ads for them, and in exchange they'd pay me food. The oil change company down the road, I would do work for them and they'd give me free oil changes. Like, I was trying to piece my entire life together, just do an exchange of work, which is actually a pretty interesting concept if you think about it. Maybe it could be done today. So I started just by doing that, and then that was my temporary hold until I could figure out what I really wanted to do. And over time, every time I thought about that question, I would look at what I was doing right now and I would think, actually what I'm doing is what I want to do. Like, this is pretty fun. I'm having a good time. And so I'll come back to that question. And then 6 months later, a year later, I'd keep coming back to it. And each time I'd say, actually, I'm having a lot of fun doing this. So I just keep doing it. And that just continued, honestly, until today. I look back, I'm like, when am I going to do something else? It's like, actually, you know what? I enjoy doing it, what I'm doing right now. So, here I am.
Do you have a name for yourself now?
3D Sculpt. I can't even say it. It's so like there's so many S's and T's in the name, you can't even say it out loud. Just 3D sculpt. We realized actually we need something that's more philosophical. We thought about, well, what is the style that we have? What's our conceptual approach? And it feels like everything that we're doing really feels against the grain of what traditional advertising is like. So when someone hires us to do something, they're like spending, I would just open up a newspaper. Anyone spending money in a newspaper, I'd say that's a waste of money. And I would go talk to them and tell them that. And they say, well, what would you do? And I come up with something completely different, off the wall, buzz generating type of stuff. And, that approach, I thought we started thinking about it. It felt like an arch rival. And so Archrival became our name, and it felt right. It felt like us then. It still feels like us today. And we could get archrival.com. I mean, these are early years.
That was available?
It was available.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
No.
I know. It's so
It was
crazy.
meant to be.
Yeah, we're like, okay, that's us. So we buy the domain, and then that's us.
So the year is 1997, and Clint has just graduated from college. He has a domain name, and he's off to the races. Like most people that we speak with on this show, he too has decided to forego the career path that he studied for in college and start from scratch to try his hand at a less conventional career. What was your first office like at this time?
The very first one was way too big in a basement. Very classic story.
Okay. Was it so big that you were like throwing Nerf balls? What did you do with all the extra space?
Oh yeah, I'm a big basketball fan. We could throw the ball around down there. We hosted parties down there all the time. Like, it's way too big. Yeah. But you have dreams, you have expectations, and whatever. And so it was real dark. We often called it the dungeon. Now, I would never have an office like that today, but I can tell you that at that point in time, actually I'm really thankful that we had like this casino-like feel where there was no windows, and it was kind of, you never know what time it was because we were grinding, like we were heads down. And in a lot of ways, there's a part of me that missed some of my life because I was working so much, but also it allowed me to do some pretty fun things and get ahead in other ways. So I wouldn't trade it. I would never do that office now, but back then it actually was a pretty great idea for us.
I hear about this tipping point with you where you did the car wash ad campaign. Can you tell me about that?
Sure can. It's actually one of those examples where I was like, oh, this guy's advertising in the newspaper that there's a new car wash, and was telling everybody about it in this newspaper ad, which is like, 3 inches by 3 inches in the 5th or 6th page of the Journal Star. It's like, no one's reading it. I mean, no one's reading it 25 years ago. No one's reading it today. Like, no one's ever reading this stuff. But what else do you do? This guy does car washes. So, you can't expect him to be an incredible marketer too. And I came up to him and said, hey, in exchange for car washes, of course, let me take whatever, you're doing with the newspaper ad, and I'll make it better. And this is me building my portfolio and style, figuring out my style. And he's like, okay, you're on. What are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. But I came back with the idea that we were going to go around and find all the dirty cars in Lincoln. That seems to be a really good target audience. And we were going to issue them tickets for having such dirty cars, as though there was some new city law that you could not have a dirty car. And we would tell people they had a super dirty car and they could go to the car wash. To make it look really legit, I tracked down through some sources at the DMV the actual supplier of, at that time they had these really bright pink envelopes. I found the exact same supplier. Everything was exactly the same as a real ticket that you would get on your car, and went dressed up as like a parking attendant type of person, and I went around downtown and littered all of these cars. I had a dirty car with a parking ticket. Now the ticket itself said, it was funny. Like, you'd get the ticket, you know how mad you are when you see a ticket on your car.
Fuming.
Oh, it's crazy. I can't believe how mad people get. It's like, $10 or whatever, but it's like you just feel robbed.
Violated.
Yeah. I put all these tickets, people see it, I'd watch them, they'd get so mad. Like, they'd look at their meter, like, I put money in the meter. How am I still getting a ticket? It's even more infuriating.
So you would watch them from around the corner and see their reaction?
Yeah. And oftentimes, I'd even get caught at times, and I'm putting it down. They're like, what is this? I'd be like, oh, you have a dirty car. So, and then just walk away. And then they'd be cursing at me, and then I would eventually hear them laugh and be like, you got me. So the inside was a ticket, and the ticket said you had a dirty car and you could go get it cleaned at the new car wash, which is downtown. And most people, 95% of people understood that. There was about 5% of the population that didn't get it, and they went down to the DMV to pay for their ticket.
Oh no.
Now the DMV found out about this, and this is like, I suppose we're walking the gray area of mimicking public documents, or whatever.
Forgery.
They don't find this funny at all. Okay, they have the humor of like a brick wall. So they issue this they send us the cease and desist letter and all these things, and to the car wash and to us, and now we had also peppered the Journal-Star parking lot with all these tickets as well. And so we made sure that the Journal-Star knew that the DMV was really upset about it, so that they would then call us and interview us about this process, about what was going on. And so the next morning, on the front page of the Journal-Star is this controversy around these parking tickets, right? It's great. And so of course it's all talking about this crazy campaign, but it's also talking about the new car wash that's reopened, right? And so I'm like, boom, there went from your 3-inch paid ad in the back, like you're now on the front page, and it's an article that people are reading, and this is so much better. And then the news stations wanted to pick up on it for their nightly news, so we made sure we had tons of people in the parking lot that were friendly to us. Like all our friends were like, oh, I'm getting my car washed, I had a parking ticket, this is great. And they're interviewing as though they're real customers, and we set up the whole thing, of course. That's done like on a regular basis now, but back then that was like kind of like, forefront of stuff.
Guerrilla marketing is using unconventional or surprise interactions to promote a product, and Clint has mastered the art through his car wash campaign. These kinds of campaigns happen all the time now on YouTube, but in the early 2000s, before Casey Neistat or viral marketing, no one knew about them. Things were happening for Clint, and his business was moving.
The first time where I felt like, okay, we're getting somewhere, was after doing all these sort of guerrilla advertising, guerrilla marketing for all these companies. We'd built a really pretty interesting portfolio around this style of work. And we had an opportunity to meet with Red Bull. Red Bull had just come to the U.S. They were challenged in how they were marketing Red Bull to U.S. consumers. They were still doing it as though they were in Europe, and they needed help getting some U.S. cultural gravitas, right? And everything that we had ever done in the history of our portfolio matched everything that Red Bull has ever done in the history of their much longer portfolio. And it was when we sat down and met each other and we showed them everything about us, they showed me about them, it was honestly like we fell in love. And I remember that moment. It was like, wow, like we're going to do some amazing things together. And we did. I mean, that was 15 years ago, and we've been doing amazing things with them ever since. That was the first time where I was like, okay, these guys are legit. They know what they're doing. They're really good at what they do. And we became a pretty significant partner for them for a good chunk of a while. Red Bull has an incredible attitude that they don't want to just go in and sponsor. They want to go in and own the event. So they have a real premium approach to things, and we learned a ton from them. I mean, I always say that we grew up together. Everything that they were doing in the U.S., we were a part of, but they were learning, we were learning. We grew up together in a lot of ways.
And was it just you and your co-founder at this point, or do you have more people?
When we first started, it was us two, but we always added one over time. In 2005, we probably had about 7 or 8 people.
Okay. So when Red Bull came on, you were a full staff. You were an actual agency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you never feel like you're legit. I mean, even today, I'm always like, yeah, we're a company. We've been around for over 20 years. We're doing great. I'm always like, oh, are we like a real business? Like, is this how other real businesses are? I think everyone who has a business always feels that underneath. Like, are we doing the right things here? Like, I don't know.
What about starting Archrival in Nebraska, do you think was a benefit to you?
There's a lot of reasons why it's not a benefit. I'll start there. We were young. We had no experience, and we were broke. Okay. And Nebraska does not have or at least then did not have the networking systems and support to help someone who would want to start a business under those conditions. I don't know that's necessarily true today, but that was definitely true when we started. But we didn't really care either. Like, again, we didn't think of ourselves as entrepreneurs doing a startup that we just were doing. Okay. Today, when I look back, what's been very beneficial was overcoming all of that has brought us great confidence. And when I think about all the places you could start a business today, Austin's pretty cool, Madison's cool. There's so many interesting places in the world, but they're already cool. And I always thought that, something I've been very proud of is doing this in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is a hidden gem. And, going up against all the people on the coasts all the time over these national brands that we work with, there's a greater sense of pride being able to do it from Nebraska that I would not be able to get from anywhere else. So it's been a harder journey, probably, to earn these clients and win these clients and provide great work for these clients. But the satisfaction of doing it from here is much greater. And that is something that, being able to live this lifestyle, the good life here, and do this kind of work that anyone nationally would want to do, that really is the good life. So I think big picture, long term, boy, Lincoln's been the perfect spot for us. And if you think about it, going against the grain, there you go. We should be in New York, that's kind of agency we should be. But we're not. We're in Lincoln. And that's against the grain of expectations. Boy, that's what we do for our clients. I've always been really surprised to find out how many people are out there who are from nowhere and will support and champion you because you are also from quote unquote nowhere. And I can think of moments where I was in like a New York boardroom and this great presentation. They'll be like, "Oh, this is so great. We want to hire you. Hey, what part of the city are you from?" And I'd be like, "Oh, whoa. I'm not from the city here. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska." And their minds just be like blown away. They couldn't believe this. Like what? I'm sure the image that they have of us is probably pretty interesting. And then later, like the marketing director would come over after everyone's left, and she'd be like, "I'm from Iowa. I'm so happy you guys are here." Yeah. And so now I always thought of that as like a negative thing, and on the national scene. And now it's like one of the first things I tell people. It's a differentiator and something I'm really proud of.
What would the young Clint say about you now?
The young Clint would say, "Wow, Archrival is your 6th grade newspaper, just done on a bigger scale."
Today, Archrival works with major brands like Spotify, Hollister, and Adidas, and Clint still gets goosebumps when he talks about the work that he does. Archrival won the 2016 Ad Age Agency of the Year award, which is a huge honor, and they're not showing any signs of slowing down. I'm JT Martin, and this has been a Grindstone production. Grindstone is one of the premier production and marketing firms here in Lincoln, offering everything you need to grow your business in 2020, from video and podcast production to social media management and media buying. You can learn more by visiting grindstoneagency.com.
There's Archrival, but there's a number of people who I feel like now is able to put Lincoln on the map. People used to leave, but now they're staying and coming back. And it's, I think it's a lot more rewarding to help make a place cool than to go do it somewhere else.